Right. Good evening to all of you. Let me welcome you to this CMA student seminar on new career opportunities in the IT BPO industry. So here we have today, it's a joint program, CMA Sri Lanka with the SLASCOM, who are the holding company. I'm sure Jehan will be able to give more details of it in the BPO BPM industry. And today they will speak on an introduction to the BPM BPO industry and why the BPM industry is a great place to work. So we have a very, very eminent panel, and those who are involved in the IT, BPO, BPM industry with us today. So let me welcome them. We have Mr. Jehan Perimpanayagam, who is the Vice Chairman of SLASCOM and the CEO of Informate, John Kale's group company. Then Mr. Shanaka Fernando, who is the Senior General Manager of WNS. Mr. Arjuna Ranayakar, Head of Shared Services, Sri Lanka. And Praveen Ruberu, the Principal Partner, Ernst & Young, of Accounting, Compliance and Reporting and Payroll Services. And from our side, we have Mr. Ruchira Pereira, Council Member, and we have a number of our Council members, then of course our directors and staff, and our students whom we have invited for this seminar. So let me first of all thank Mr. Jehan Perimpanayagam, who has been playing the major role in bringing the IT, BPM, BPO industry closer to the accounting profession. We do have IT that is currently being taught in our syllabus. So we just revised our syllabus to bring in the data analytics, which is very, very important. Of course, we have the other areas that we are already doing, but we just did a revision to bring in the data analytics. So we are very happy because as far as the accounting profession is concerned, although now Jehan is our own member and working in the BPO, BPM industry, most of the students are having the traditional sort of training in the various industry, the accounting firms and BPO. And the BPO, BPM industry, with, as you say, is a great place to work in. And also you will be speaking to us on the new career opportunities in the IT industry. So we are very thankful to you for arranging this webinar for our students, and I'm sure that they will benefit from it. Plus also that we will be also able to recognize the IT area, the BPM, BPO industry for the training of our students to get the membership, because as a professional body, while our core area would be on the management accounting, the financial accounting, and of course the strategic management that would be involved, and combined with, of course, the ethics, governance, and the important areas of risk management. So we will, once we find out what sort of opportunities are available, we will be able to make certain changes or add the BPO and BPM industry into our training program. And also maybe as far as the curriculum is concerned, where we could bring in certain units which will help the students to go into the industry. So once again, let me thank Jehan and his team for sparing your valuable time to be with us and to explain to us all this. We have, as I said, our council members, our management and staff who are there, plus those who are members, and maybe the people who have passed the past finalists, and the students who are under training. So let me introduce Mr. Jehan Perimpanayagam, who is going to be the moderator for this session, and who's been working. Jehan is the CEO of Informate Private Limited and Vice President, John Keels Holdings PLC, and someone who would be proud that he is someone who's closely involved with us, because especially on the data analytics and also on the IT area. Because today, with the current COVID pandemic, all our processes have transformed using the technology, and our education is done online, our examinations are done online. Also, all the other connected work on the registrations, the payments, everything. So we are very happy that this opportunity has been provided to our students to go into this new industry. So especially Jehan is also involved in our Speechcraft program, where he is a keynote speaker who comes and speak about the technology area to the students. So he is also pioneering the country's first ever rural BPO. Is an achievement to Jehan, because going into the rural area, and he has a career spanning over 22 years. He has experience in the outsourcing, offshoring industry, process excellence, and managing large teams. Jehan is a fellow member of CMA Sri Lanka and a member of the member network panel of ACCA. We also have a MOU with ACCA, and that's also another big contribution that has been made. He currently serves as a member advisory committee on the ICT BPM of the Export Development Board of Sri Lanka, and was previously Director Treasurer at the Jehan has agreed to maybe conduct this workshop, and has agreed, has invited all his fellow mates in the BPM industry. So let me now hand you over to Jehan, so that he might be able to speak a few words on this industry, and also introduce his team that is brought for this webinar. So over to you, Jehan.
Thank you very much indeed, Professor, and thank you all. It is our privilege to be a part of today's webinar, and we are very proud of our partnership with CMA. As Professor said, I personally am a very proud fellow of CMA. I have huge respect for the qualification and for all that the Professor and his team have accomplished, and how you have prioritized the national interest and the many initiatives to promote exports and to develop accountancy profession in Sri Lanka. As I said, we have immense respect for the CMA qualification. Just a few days ago, my company, we hired one of your students into our workforce, and there are many more opportunities that are there. My colleagues in the BPM industry will share more details of that. We have a star-studded panel, some of the best people in the industry to learn from. And what we wanted to showcase today is, what is the BPM industry? What is it about? What is the nature of the work? What is the opportunity for accountants? What can you learn? How you can progress your career in the BPM industry? What international best practices and standards you can get exposed to, and also what skills that you must possess to build a career in the BPM industry. So it's a very exciting panel, so please ask your questions, clarify all your doubts. A little bit about SLASCOM. SLASCOM is the Industry Association for IT and BPM companies. It encompasses 360 member companies. These include very large companies like WNS, Ernst & Young, LSCG, who are here, Virtusa, HSBC, and also 150 startups. So we have some very small niche players to very large players who employ thousands of people. It is one of the fastest growing industries in Sri Lanka. It's one of the top 4 export earning industries in this country, bringing in very valuable, much needed foreign exchange. The estimate was about $1.7 billion in export revenue earnings 2021. That's a conservative estimate. It could be as high as $2 billion. It employs close to 120,000 people. And the objective that we have as Slascom is to double the employment numbers and triple our top line by 2025. So there are a lot of interest in Sri Lanka. We are having big names. For instance, Praveen is from Ernst & Young. We are having interest from Ernst & Young globally now to come and set up in Sri Lanka. We are having Concentrix, Tata Consultancy, some very big names in the IT BPM industry looking at Sri Lanka, and they're going to hire hundreds and perhaps over 1,000 people, each of them. So there is going to be immense opportunities in this industry. So my first pleasant task is to introduce a good friend and colleague, Shanaka Fernando. Shanaka serves as General Manager, Human Resources and Director, WNS Global Services. He is one of the most experienced pioneers in the BPM industry. So he was part of the original team, and it was WNS in the early days that built this industry. So we're very grateful to their contribution over the years. He plays a key role in Slascom, where he serves as the board director and board lead for the BPM Forum. He's an experienced HR professional with many qualifications and 2 decades of experience in HR and BPM. So he will speak on the industry and his vast experience. Shanaka, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jahan. Nice introduction. Before that, I think I must pay gratitude towards Professor Vatavada, who was one of the pioneers when WNS started in 2004. We reached out to him at that time. I think Professor was the VOI chairman at that time, and he was very useful, very helpful in terms of setting WNS in Sri Lanka. Professor, thank you very much once again. I think I have thanked you many times, but I will continue to thank you any point because you are the one of the stronghold help us to build Sri Lanka operations in Colombo. And also not only Professor but also CMA being one of the talent supplier for WNS in terms of finance and accounting. We have very good success stories to tell about from the employees that we have, who are also the members of CMA, right? So with that, what I do is I'll spend about 10-12 minutes with my presentation about today's keynote, and then after that I think we can have a Q&A and followed by the panel discussion. So I share my screen. I thought I'll do a presentation that will be very easy to take through the students. So we'll start with that. In terms of my presentation, what I want to talk about is in terms of my today's session, why the BPM industry is a great place to work. So before that, I just want to start with you something. We all know that business today conducting in a very competitive and a challenging environment. If you look at everything has become very competitive, right? අපි සිංහලෙන් කියනවා තරංගකාරීත්වය කියලා. තාමත් very තාමත් තරංගකාරීත්වය තියෙන හැම තැනම බැලුවොත් තරංගකාරීත්වය. It's very competitive, right? Everything is becoming competitive. Every organization wants to be the market leader, right? So that's become very competitive. Even students, they want to be competitive. They want to be a top batch top. They want to become first in the class. Everything is very competitive. Not only that, it has become very challenging environment. Everything is changing in the world today, right? Challenging everywhere. If you look at from the challenges are coming from political front, economic front, social front, technological front. Everything is becoming very challenging environment. In this environment, what has happened? Every organization today needs to operate at a maximum efficiency in order to survive, grow, and to be profitable. So therefore, every organization is operating at maximum level, because if they don't do that, they will have challenges in terms of survival, grow, and be profitable, right? If you look at talking about that, so therefore, what happened was every business today needs to adapt or stay relevant to the current surrounding if they are to survive. If they don't do that, they will not be able to survive. I'm going to show you a photo I think most of you may not have seen, but we have seen this photo. I think it's a mobile phone. This was the mobile phone that we use. We call the cellular phone in almost about 30 years ago. That's the phone that we use. Right, and we call the first time it was very proud when the call happens. We need to remove change the antenna and say very proudly hello, hello like that, because this was a very luxury item to have at that time, 30 years ago. And if you look at from today's point of view, if this phone doesn't evolve, change as per the current, I don't think that we can even use that phone. There's no value for that, right? 30 years ago, we used a phone to talk only. And today we use the phone for everything other than talking, right? You can see how things have evolved, how the business have changed. So therefore, this phone's story will tell us how the business needs to change. They need to adapt according to the or stay relevant to the current surrounding. If not, this will happen to the same like Nokia phone. What happened in Nokia? They were the number one in the brand, but they did not change according to the changes that required by the market. They become, obsolete and nobody wants to buy. And it was replaced by Samsung, Apple, and today Nokia is nowhere in the world. So therefore, it's very important as an organization that we need to change. If we don't change, I don't think that we have any survival, right? So that's what the point that I need to share with you, right? Also, the world is changing, even though we are not, we know that world is changing. I do not know whether you realize the world is changing in a very, very fast manner. The secret to the change of the world is nothing other than intelligence, right? Intelligence is a leading thing that changes. The phase of technological change is massive. You won't believe it. The world is changing the way that even we speak now, something has changed thanks to the technology and the intelligence that we have, right? So I showed this photo. This was a phone, a cellular phone that was used 30 years ago and took about 30 years to phone that we are using now. And most of the scientists or the phone companies, they predict the next set of phones is going to be something like this. It's not going to be like a material or something like that. It will be part of our body. So therefore, you can imagine how the change is going to happen. The world is changing because of the technological change and everything. The phone is going to be part of our body. We have seen this in the films, right? So you have seen they talk to their hands, right? Microchips is already in the body, right? We have seen a lot of things, likewise, the world is going to change like that. If you look at how the world has changed for the last, I would say 700 years, the first change, we talk about the Industrial Revolution. It took place in 1400 in England by introducing the printing press. And you can see from that time, they took 300 years to introduce a steam engine. 300 years from the printing press to steam engine. And you can see what has happened when the Industrial Revolution, the 404, we call digital revolution happened in 2000 with the introduction of microprocessors and everything. You see how the world has changed. The graph will show you in terms of 2000 what has happened by the introduction of microprocessors, right? We talk about Facebook, we talk about Google, we talk about artificial intelligence, virtual realities. Then not only that, we talk about driverless cars, pilotless the plane, right? Drone technology, right? We do they have seen the operations are done, right? So the world has changed for the last 20 years in a very, very, you can imagine what has happened in the last 20 years. Even we do not know what will happen in the next 10 years, right? So we can't predict things are going to happen. Now, from the business front, if you look at the world has changed, right? Even those days, when you talk about having a conference, we talk about people coming to a hotel, right? A lot of arrangement has to be done. Today, we all working from home. We never thought that we will go back to work from home. How the things have changed, right? I can remember when at WNS, we were going to implement the work from home for most of our employees. The client come and say, no, we can't do that, right? Because of security issues, privacy issues, confidentiality. Can't help. Pandemic happened, no way that everything has to move, right? And therefore, we talk about the work from home, hybrid work models that we talk about. Now, the way that we are doing business also changing, right? Another example, this is my favorite photo. I always share this, right? In 2009, if you look at the 2009, the world highest paid job was the pilot and the cameraman. They were paid highly in 2009. And in 2019, what has happened? In just 10 years, both the cameraman and the pilot lost their jobs. Reason? Because of the technology. The things have changed, right? So therefore, we have to be upgraded ourselves. We have to change the way things are moving, right? So coming back to today's discussion, we talk about the BPM industry, right? So what happened is are the business ready in terms of to change, in terms of to move to the new business model, right? Every organization is today talking about what we need to do, right? If we don't want to be like a typewriter, we don't want to be like a stamp, right? This become obsolete or a ceremonial thing, right? We don't want to be like that. So the business now always talking about what is the next thing that we need to do, what transformation that we need to do. I think everyone knows the answer. Answer is the world is moving towards business process outsourcing, right? Many organizations, they are moving towards business process outsourcing, right? Business process outsourcing will become a major deciding factor for any organization for their survival, as well as a competitive edge over the other organization, right? If you look at many companies, world leading organization, today the work model is looking at going out the outsourcing or towards the shared services. That's the answer if you want to be in this modern digital world, if you want to survive, if you want to grow, if you want to have a competitive advantage over others, the business processing or the outsourcing is going to be the key, right? All major companies, as I said, that has already started their journey on BPM, and already they are enjoying improved effectiveness, efficiencies, and reinforce the company bottom line. If you think about, name it, any organization, right? They are now looking at in terms of shared services or looking at in terms of outsourcing. The outsourcing industry, the BPM industry, has become very vital for even to Sri Lanka. Let's look at Sri Lanka, some numbers. I know Jehan has mentioned something, right? But if you look at from the Sri Lanka, the BPM industry in Sri Lanka, it's about 500 million BPM revenue that's created currently, targeting, right? And also there are about 80 to 90 registered BPOs, shared services across the top cities, even Colombo, Jaffna, Kandy, Brunagala, there are all the cities that we covered. We have almost about 25,000 employees who are currently working in the BPM industry. And our target, BPM industry target, is to become $1 billion industry by 2023, and also to double our workforce, almost about 100% headcount by almost 50,000 employees by 2023. Right, that's what we are looking at BPM industry. The government of Sri Lanka has identified the BPM industry as a first industry, right, and also accelerated a growth industry, the BPM industry, if you look at, right. So today the BPM industry, I am being in the BPM industry for the last 18 years, it has been evolved in many ways, right. So if you look at if you look at the BPM industry as a Sri Lanka evolved, right, Sri Lanka has been recognized one of the top destinations by the global organizations. Example, Delivery Destination of the Year, Global Sourcing Association in 2019. World Economic Forum, they recognize Sri Lanka. The leading 80 Thane, they said the first globally, the financial attraction, Global Service Location Index 2019. Sri Lanka location has been identified one of the best industry, the location for their global delivery centers. Right? Sri Lanka has been recognized, renowned for the BPM industry. Right? If you look at from the landscape from the BPM industry, there are many organizations. Today we have two types of organizations: international players and the local players. If you look at international players like London Stock Exchange, where Arjuna represents, we have then we have Accenture, right? We have HSBC, Aegis. There are a lot of companies, recently HCL and even ENY. They all, international players that we have in Sri Lanka. Look at from the local players. I mentioned that most of the global organizations, they are looking the Sri Lankan local, the corporates. Example, John Keels, where Jehan is representing, MS Holdings, then Haley's Group, Hydromony Group. If you look at all the top companies, they are all already starting their shared services. Why? they have realized the BPM industry is a key industry for their survival and to have a competitive advantage. Moving in today, why, if you look at from the other front, why Sri Lanka as a BPM services delivery location? Number one, they talk about the skilled and adaptable workforce that we have, right? Sri Lanka being the second largest in terms of finance and accounting pool available next to UK. So Sri Lanka being the talent supply for the many BPM organizations, BPM industries. The value arbitrage, if you look at from the value, Sri Lanka is more cheaper, not the labor. I'm talking about overall the cost that we can charge to the client. We are a very value arbitrage the location compared with other international locations like India, Philippines, Vietnam, right? All other international. And also long established presence of leading global players. HSBC in Sri Lanka for the last 20-25 years, right? London Stock Exchange for the last 10 years, with 15 years in Millennium IT, WNS 17 years, like that. There are many workforce. And also we have a world-class infrastructure and the connectivity. Sri Lanka being the first country to implement 5G, tested 5G among the others, right? And if you look at from that infrastructure, very good IT cities that we have, people who are working in the BPM industry. My colleagues will talk about the why BPM industry is there, right? The last slide, I want to talk about the skills and adaptable workforce. That is why we are today having the discussion. The skills and adaptable workforce is the student that we are talking today. Is the students that we are looking at for the BPM industry. BPM industry is the, I think in Sinhala we call Mahagedara for the finance and accounting students, right? Mahagedara, right? So you must be thinking, why should I, join a BPM industry? Not I want to wear a nice tie, go and, sit in a desk. So today, as I said, the world is changing, right? So come to Mahagedara, the finance and accounting. That is where people meet. The BPM industry will provide you thousands of people working together, right? Very young, dynamic, energetic people. They will work not traditional 9-to-5 work. They will be working 24/7 hours and working with many countries in the world, UK, US, you name it, any country. Arjun will share his experience in terms of London Stock Exchange, success story, and how people are, right, being located in UK on secondment like that, right? Jehan will talk about in terms of how as a multinational organization, how the joint kills will provide them the exposure. ENY will talk about in terms of being the traditional audit firm, how they have, given traditional experience in terms of other areas. I think I want to request everyone in this group is BPM industry is the next things to happen, and people who are with us, they will talk about that. And my final request, as I said, that I would like to call again, BPM industry is a Mahagedara for finance and accounting professional. Come join us. We will give you not the job, but the career and a journey to be a successful professional in Sri Lanka. Thank you. Over to you, Jahan. And if you have any questions, clarifications, I'm happy to answer.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much indeed, Shanaka. It is a fascinating insight into the BPM industry and the many opportunities that exist. A lot of our companies are hiring, so there are jobs on offer. Right now, I was just whilst listening to Shanaka scrolling through open position. So there are many opportunities. So any questions that you would like to quickly ask Shanaka before we get into the panel?
Jehan said they can send the questions on Q&A. That would be the best way to get it,
Sure.
So they can send it.
Absolutely. So we will proceed to the panel discussion. We have a fantastic panel. Joining Shanaka, we have Arjuna Nanekara, who is country head of LSCG, a highly qualified professional with 25 years of experience, including a lot of international experience. And today he heads a very, very innovative, a very futuristic team of IT and finance professionals. He is the BPM Forum lead and leads the activities of all of the BPO companies. So we're very privileged to have Arjuna from LSCG with us. Also joining is my good friend Praveen. Praveen has been a veteran in the finance and BPM industry. Praveen Rubero, who is partner Ernst & Young, very, very experienced person, and he's someone you can relate to because he's done many finance qualifications. He's gone through the audit line, joined the BPM industry after many years of experience. So someone who you can relate to. Welcome, Praveen. It's great to have you on board. So I would just like to begin with Arjuna in terms of what are the trainings that LSCG and the BPM industry provides young finance professionals. What are some of the futuristic and the latest technological innovations that they will get exposed to if they join the BPM industry?
Thanks, Jian. It's a good question to dive into our panel discussions. I want to set a foundation to structure my answer very quickly. As Sri Lankans, we should believe that we are global citizens. We are a very small island compared to the rest of the world. But how do we actually convert ourselves into a global career and stretch ourselves so that we can become part of that global process of running and being part of a large corporate organization, which is a machine itself. So if you look at getting graduated in Sri Lanka and looking at various options that are local, here comes an option in the BPM industry where your exposure is a touch of local and international, right? You get this local touch of the knowledge, but you get exposed to a stretch where you can apply that knowledge at an international scale, where the depth and the knowledge is far more broader, right? So what that gives you as an option is to start your career with a BPM industry and stretch yourself to larger roles as you mature, and you possibly end up in secondments, as Shanaka said, where we have experienced in LSCG, a large percentage of our population, they stretch long careers and they eventually end up in foreign positions. So if you look at I'm coming to your question, if you want to look at the training aspect of this, one of the good things that the industry offers is tailoring in certain aspects of your curriculum so that it is relevant for you. The second most important thing that I see is when you get exposed to the BPM industry with a localized curriculum, the topics are relevant and current. Okay, you're not going to learn a lot about cryptocurrencies and all these blockchains and how it impacts the global financial services and how you account for it. Those are very complex avenues, how you treat taxation around that. But if you want to have a global career, you need to learn all that, right? So most of the time when you expose and get this experience, some of these companies offer that as a training, and then you get that foundation. The second thing that you will realize is it comes with a very heavy technology touch. If you see a lot of repetition in your normal processes or day-to-day work, chances are in a mid-sized organization, you'll have to work hard and finish your work. But in BPM industry, you actually invest a lot of technology on RP, robotic process automation, machine learning, and a lot of the data science, right? So you get to know the scripting, technologies like Python, and how you actually add that on to your experience. And you're not going to really worry about linking various variables into your workflow and figuring out an Excel worksheet. You're going to use tools like Snowflakes and link that up and do your work so that you become very intelligent and smart in working and not really work hard to get results. So that exposure comes in the industry. And what you have to, if you want to summarize that as a packaged answer, it's relevant to your scope of work. It is innovative and current to the technology and the exposure that you get as a global industry. And it is going to give you this launching platform to become somebody who's global, which is going to give you more potential as a career development option, where you have many other choices as a part of a large industry. And definitely, I mean, what Shanaka mentioned, the overall underlying message there is technology is going to embrace most of what we do, and the BPM industry has taken definitely a step forward, leading the way in absorbing technology into the financial services. So you're going to be part of that technology roadmap and adjusting your knowledge and your capabilities around that. And when you use tools like, I don't want to mention names too much, but usually, when you're in the industry, you get exposed to tools like SAP, right? A lot of the tools which are enterprise level. You add that into your CV, you're a different person in an interview. So that's something that I can go on, but I thought I'll structure and shrink up the answer and give it back to you, Jehan.
Fantastic. So global opportunities, leading ERP systems, data science, RPS, those are just some of the things that you will get exposed to in the BPM industry. Praveen, coming to you, there's a question about how diversified is the exposure that a finance professional can get in the BPM sector. So this is a question from Minhaj. Now there is the perception that, BPM work could be repetitive, it could be limited. But you are doing audits, end-to-end finance for both local and overseas customers. What sort of exposure will a young finance person get in your company, Praveen?
Thanks, Jehan. Thanks. First and foremost, I would like to thank Mr. Professor Watanabe for this setting up the CMA. I myself is a CMA member. So taking on with your so if I'm to elaborate on the diversification of the industry, if I'm to touch on the fact that I'm getting an echo. I don't know.
Are you having another instrument open? Praveen, just see.
No.
No, we can't hear you. No. No, can't hear. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now
Yes,
fine.
yes.
Now.
Okay, right. So in terms of diversification, I would like to and I have been with Ernst & Young almost now 20 odd years. So, and being in the accounting outsourcing industry for the last, I would say 2 decades, I know for a fact how diversified it can get and how elaborative it can expand to. Because if you just look at the fact, the current pandemic and how the pandemic has turned around to the accounting profession. So everybody talks about the new normal and talks about how things have changed and how things are making them do things differently. But the fact remains, every company needs the accounts to be done, irrespective of the situation. Every company needs their accounting reports out and all of that. It's just that need is stagnant and how we do has changed. So from that simple fact, the fact that the simple guy, let's say a CMA or a chartered trainee or a AAT trainee joining the industry will always have so much of depth in terms of going forward, because in the BPM industry, the finance and accounting has so much of diversification, not only in terms of accounting, in terms of the initial step will be accounting, but going forward will be always management. And as Shanaka, as Arjuna says, the management skills are which is coming in, which is pivoted through the accounting and finance. So initially, a CMA member or a finalist or a student will start up at the basics, but the diversification is so broad in the industry, which has, I would say, the accounting and outsourcing industry within BPM has tripled in terms of value, in terms of what they're delivering, because right now, remote working technology has come into play. And not only that, not only the industry, not only the people who's providing the services, even the clients who were resilient to go remote or do things remotely are now very, very much into doing certain things. So I have certain clients, I would say that for the certain old and good clients, I would say we have served for the last 6-7 years. I would say in 2018 or 19, when I wanted them to change the platform to get it checks payment online, they were very reluctant because they want to see the supplier give the check to them. But with the pandemic, within 24 hours, the things that I have been trying to tell them for so long, within 24 hours, they just moved to technology. So that is I'm trying to say that is the depth of the diversification that we are heading on in the industry. So you can start low, but we definitely will move on to management and further management, and definitely the BPM industry. I don't think there will be I can't say never, but the industry cannot be affected through any pandemic or any type of this type of situation will not be affected, and that is a good proof for the future as well, for the diversification it has and the marketability it has.
Thank you for that. So it will be much, it won't be limited to say just AP, and also what I gathered from you, it will include final accounts, it will include management reporting, all of that. Shanaka, you like to just add to that?
Yes,
And also maybe if you can also touch on, there are a couple of questions on what people need to get into the BPM industry. Do they need experience? What sort of vacancies are there?
Right. Just to summarize, I think the diversification asked about that, adding to Praveen. From the process point of view, if you look at the BPM industry in the finance and accounting, we have AP processes, AR processes. People can work in general ledger, FP&A, expense management, then the taxation, Sri Lankan taxation, UK taxation, US taxation. Likewise, they can work. From the complexity point of view, high level, medium complexity processes can be done. And also, if you look at the high end IFRS 17 area to be worked, I think that's also they can work on that. Then if you look at for the diversification, people are working in month end, they can work, quarter end, they can work, year end work, they can work, right? And also there are people that we have, they are presenting the board papers, board packs to the international customers, right? And also the closure of audit, compliance requirement, right? Workforce management, MIS, you name it, the spectrum of entire process from simple to high level that we do from the BPM industry. So it's a myth. Who say the BPM industry does not give that sort of width, but width is always there, right? The limit is up to sky. If you talk about that, Arjuna was talking about the automation, right? So we talk about the robotics process automation, fintech technology, finance and technology joined together. But I think starting with a simple data entry, you can talk about presenting a board paper in the BPM industry. So that's one area. The skills, we talk about the skills, there are two types of skills we're looking at, right? One is about your domain expertise in terms of the domain, your finance and accounting expertise, right? Your qualification, that part. And the other one is the functional. As a person that you're working that in terms of what the qualification. If you look at from the very small thing like your business communications, right? Your computer literacy. Those are the basic skills that we're looking at. From the time that you become, into the BPM industry, they will provide you very good training in terms of to enhance your skills. So I would say anybody who's interested or rejoin the BPM industry, I think what you need is even O-level qualifications, even the A-level qualification, it matters enough. With your CMA qualification, I think that is good enough to enter to the BPM industry, where BPM industry will mold you in terms of how we are looking at, because the BPM industry is I would say the training like a university. they provide all the necessary training for that. But asking qualification, we can, for an associate level, it's a CMA qualification. It's good enough for us to hire somebody. If you're joining as an assistant manager level, we are looking at more like a negotiations, communication, leadership skills that we're looking at. If you're joining as a managerial level, at the highest level, right, they will bring in terms of some of the exposure that we are handling it, the other clients. So I think there are a lot of skills that we have. We have developed a BPM handbook. I think we will share with the CME in terms of the BPM handbook, where we talk about the skills required for the particular finance and accounting industry.
Thank you very much indeed. So I hope that answered multiple questions about what type of work is outsourced. You heard it from both Praveen and from Shanaka, and also you saw that you can join it at different levels. You could be a starter, you can come in. If you're a little more senior, you have different roles. Arjuna, tell us about the working environment. Is it a nice place to work? Is it work only? What are the other fun activities that you have? What benefits do BPM companies offer employees?
Yes, so one of the things that you need to appreciate is a lot of the BPM companies, they try to set up the office infrastructure to a certain standard, which actually attracts clients, because they're working with foreign clients most of the time. And you need to set a certain level of standard and expectation to make it world class. So I have seen, most of the BPM industries in Sri Lanka, the companies have set up world class offices. So what do you mean by world class? It's a completely different story. You get the work-life balance. That's the first thing I've seen, despite many people saying, am I at a stretch because I need to work foreign hours? It's not the case. These officers, when you walk into these places, from the start of the entrance and how you live life inside that, every single aspect of the work has that balance between your personal life and your work-life balance, including the desk that you sit and the ergonomics between the device that you use, right? And nowadays, when you go home, you got the office duplicated to a level where you don't really see a difference between office and home environment. Companies have invested in that for you. And one of the other things that I see in the industry, which is really, really great, is they invest in concepts like diversity and inclusion, right? This is one of the industries where girls can very comfortably join and have a career. And it's great to see over 50% women participation in this industry, right? This sets aside the standards and the assurance and the security that the industry brings. But if you look at the fun side of it, when you walk into some of these offices, you get pool tables, you have so much of engagement activities, fun clubs, right? You have, all sorts of chill out areas, breakaway sections. That is actually to get that environment, because if you're working in office, remember, okay, most of your life is spent doing your job. Then you go home. So if you're working, that environment has to be conducive and you should enjoy it at that age, different stages of your career. These officers have looked into that. And not only that, they have looked at exceptional safety standards in terms of health and safety standards. Despite having such a large population of employees working in the BPM industry, look at the amount of breaches on COVID. Why is that? Because these officers have concentrated so much on health and safety standards, right? And Sri Lanka as a whole has shown a lot of resilience, saying they can serve the world through this. So it has obviously come at an investment. So this is one of the industries, especially for different stages of people, young, mid-age to seniors. You can join in and really enjoy your day, and you can get into those, become part of that ecosystem and really enjoy your career. That's what I got to say, Jehan.
Thank you very much. So it's a fun place to work. It's a great place to work, great office spaces, great people, a lot of engagement activities, sports. You have great breakout rooms. You've got snooker tables. I've seen some of Shanaka and Arjuna's offices, beautiful places. Praveen, in terms of career development, how long will it take if someone has asked a question, what if I join without experience? Will you hire someone without experience with just qualifications? And how soon can that person build a career in EY and in the BPM industry from what you have seen?
Yeah, I would say that we don't, because we are originally from a training perspective. So we do take people with without experience and with just A-level leavers or even O-level leavers, because that the market caters to them. But the only thing we need those individuals to be in some form of accounting profession exam, either it's starting from AAT, CMS, Chartered. They have to be in that line of finance and accounting background, because we are into that aspects of things. So let's say you join, and then when you join, they will always, let's say I will go from a non-experienced guy. So if that person, the individual, he or she joins us, then they will definitely work with a team who has the exposure and who has worked with the system software and work with the relevant clients in that aspect. So they will be trained, they will be looked after in terms of how things need to flow through. So as and when you process as let's say you join as an associate trainee and then you moved on, let's say to the point to, let's say you get to executive, to a lead, I would say a good 1 to 1.5 years if you really, I mean, with experience. I'm talking without experience at all. And how that will be a more or less by the time you get to CMA middle level or more towards your latter part of CMA exam, that will be the case. But if you join, let's say as a finalist or as a member, well, at that point of time, I have come across CMA students who are joining us with experience and joining us without experience. So if I get the common factor out, which is the CMA qualification, and which is the variable factor being the experience and non-experience, and if I harp on the CMA qualification and the background they are coming from, I would say the background and the knowledge of adapting to the work environment with the CMA qualification is very, very high. And it's very easy for us to work with the CMA people or the students who are finalists, or I would say the guys who are in the middle stages of CMA. It's very easy to adapt with them because there might be a little language barrier, but that's not a big problem at all, because the knowledge, because you might be using the world's best SAP, or you must be using the best system in the world, Jahan, but for accounting, debit credits will not change. So debit credit, which is going into these students, especially in CMA, AAT, is solid, rock solid. So that makes us it makes us very easy for us to change these students to the BPM industry. And I saw somewhere down the line the question, if somebody is in a different industry joining the BPM industry, as long as you have a CMA or accounting background, BPM industry is not predominantly going to be accounting and double entry. So there are a lot of aspects in the BPM industry which is outsourced. If you take AP outsourcing, you're not just doing AP double entry or bookkeeping or reconciliation. There are a lot to AP of management skills and doing reports and doing analysis and all those aspects. So basically, that is the trainee, the middle level. But if somebody comes with experience and CMA or with qualifications, based on the footing, we can simply start off from a senior executive to assistant manager. And that is with experience. So with experience, the conversation will deviate a little bit at the level of experience and what type of experience and the availability of opportunities that any consultancy or any other firm will have. But in a very simplistic manner, due to the opportunities and due to the requirement in the industry, in the BPM and the financial accounting aspects, And not only financial accounting aspect, the management aspects, supporting the financial accounting aspects creates a lot of opportunities, as well as the progress is much faster than before.
Great to hear that. I would like to share the example of one of my colleagues who joined us as a very junior apprentice 10 years ago. Today, he is a manager heading a division. He has handled transitions from Australia and from the UK. He has traveled with me multiple times. He's worked with some of the biggest global brand names, best known brand names, handled work for them. So that's just one example. Within 10 years, he's heading a division. Shanaka, very quickly, we'll do a rapid round of questions. What are the top 3 things that you will look for when you interview a candidate?
Top 3 things, I would say number 1 is about the, basically they're looking at how person in terms of adaptability, in terms of from, how person can be changed. That's number 1, right? Because as I said, that the world is changing and, they need to adapt according to the business requirements. That's number 1. Number 2, of course, I'm looking at from the HR point of view, looking at a person in terms of their attitude, very important. Positive attitudes towards the organization and the job and the place that they're going to work. I think that's second part. Third one, of course, we are looking at the qualification and experience that, what jobs that we can able to provide them. So that's the third one I'm looking at. If you ask me what is the top number 1, I would say the attitude is most important thing, because that's where we cannot train people most of the time. There are other areas that easily we can able to train.
Great. And on the point that Praveen and touched on communication skills, so this is something always that you could work on, but I would really encourage all of you listening, because this is a life skill. So it's something, that's why CMA has invested in Toastmasters in having this. I really encourage all of you, because this is something that will benefit your life and definitely will help your career as well. So keep working on communication skills. Join the CMA Toastmasters Club. Keep learning English. Read good English literature, because that skill will really help you. If I could ask Arjuna, you are working internationally overseas. This is a more national interest question. You chose to return to Sri Lanka with your family and then take up a role here. I know that Professor and Ruchira are also very passionate about that. Why did you return to Sri Lanka, and what would be your encouragement to those listening here, why we should stay in Sri Lanka and contribute to our country and national economy? Arjuna, I think you're on mute.
You touched my soul on this, so I'm going to be very honest here. So when I went to UAE, I was privileged to be part of an organization which had willingness to grow and invest in Sri Lanka, and they saw the talent of Sri Lankans, where there was a very strong base of education with over 90% literacy, and people with very good interest to learn and showcase themselves. So it's a very rare opportunity that I had, and I realized me in UAE at the right time, right place. It's a great opportunity to bring back part of that business to Sri Lanka and give this opportunity to so many tech careers and professionals with a diverse skill set. Funnily, this is like such a coincidence. For 13 years, I had a CMA as an accountant. He eventually got qualified, and I was so proud because he had both the financial and the technical and the management skills to run that as head of finance for my division, entire operation in Sri Lanka. So if you really look at it, why did I come back? I'm a product of the free education, whatever said and done. And Sri Lanka produced me. And if you want to give something back and make a larger success where thousands and thousands of people benefit out of that knowledge, I had that opportunity to create that success. So during my time when I passed out, one of the greatest regrets I had is due to the circumstances in Sri Lanka, and it was against my parents' wish. I never went to university. I was compelled to take an exam like CMA. I did CIMA, and I moved out. And I wanted to give back something to the free education and spent a lot of time with these universities and graduates. I had that moment, Jihan. So I came back and I'm doing that role. I would have probably created over 10,000 careers in a combination of so much of involvement with the Sri Lankan industry. So if I can do that, all of you can do that who's listening on this forum today, right? You've got to always give back something to that where you got your original DNA and the grassroots, and you need to contribute back. So this is why I came back, and it's a real success story, and Sri Lanka hasn't let me down.
Wonderful, wonderful comments. And that's something that all of us are very passionate about, that we build Sri Lanka's economy. We believe that this is an industry that we can make a difference. And we want to work hard towards that. 30 seconds, Praveen, about job security. There was one question about job security. Is it a safe industry to get in? Have you ever let go of anyone? Is there a risk if you join the BPM industry? 30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay. Well, I don't see that at all. Definitely after this current pandemic, the BPM industry, the accounting outsourcing industry, Jahan, you know for a fact, it's not an industry. Ernst & Young, and I know everybody who's in the outsourcing industry has never let go of people. It's other way around. We have been we are getting more jobs and we are looking out for people. So the industry is secure. As long as it's accounting and finance, the industry is secure. You will. It's not the industry. It's the life skill you are learning as a professional accountant from CMA or any of the professional qualifications. You are learning how to do accounting and finance and reporting. So that is interpreted differently and given out differently. It's just a matter of translating. So it's not an industry in any form of threat from what I can understand from where I stand. Am I 30 seconds up?
Thank you very much indeed. Very well said. Shanaka,
one moment, and a huge kudos to Arjuna. Very much, very touching statement, and kudos.
Absolutely. I think we are all proud to hear that. Shanaka, how does one enter the BPM industry? There was one question. How can they get into the BPM industry today?
Very simple. It's a matter of typing an email, sending an email. Very simple as it is. You may have difficulties to enter into places, but it's not that easy to enter the BPM industry. It's very easy. You send an email. You can reach out to SLASCOM. You can reach out to CMA. Send your CV to CMA. They will send it to us. And you can see how fast we are and how easy to enter into the BPM industry, right? So don't worry. We are a very open in the organization, easy going industry to join, and we all welcome everyone to the BPM industry.
Thank you for that. So you have a big choice. You have about 80 BPO companies in Sri Lanka. You have 4 of us here, Informate, my company, WNS, LSCG, EY. You've also got HDPL, all the conglomerates like Haley's, Hydra Monies, MAS, Brandix. Then you've got some of the big global ones like R.R. Donnelly. So several choices and more are coming, right? So you can look at those companies, look at their LinkedIn posts, look at their Facebook, and then you can pick. You have a huge choice. So we will end up on that note. Professor Ruchira, any closing thoughts or comments from you?
Yeah, I think.
Any closing words from you?
Yeah, I think you all have covered most of the important areas. Only I was thinking when Shanaka was showing that phone, I remember in 91, 92, that one of the companies that the BUI had approved, that was Singapore Telecom, where they came and showed that instrument, that this is what we are going to do. But today we see it has completely changed. From the students' point of view, I think we also need to look at the training curriculum, and where we can work with you all and see how that could be done. And also there are students at different stages who would have passed the exams, so that maybe we need to see how, if they're interested, how they can fit in, and which we can also maybe tell them whenever they want to go in. So I think it's a great start, and of course we see the lot of possibilities and opportunities that are there, but it's also something that has to come in gradually, and I'm sure that a lot of them will take to it. I'm sure Ruchira will be, of course, giving the final vote of thanks. But before that, he's also involved in the education industry with the lectures and other areas, and in our committees. Ruchira, you may be having something to say on this and how students can benefit by going into this industry.
Yeah, Professor, I think there is a one question that I saw that question was asked from the panel as well. Some students have this view that when they join the BPO industry, that they can get stagnated, that they will not have opportunities to move around. I would like to get the views of the panel about that, whether they'll be stagnated or whether they can fast track the career if they join the BPO industry.
If I could just take a stab at that from my company perspective. So we have people who work in a particular process. So they might work in AP, but we switch them around. So they move to AR, GL. So over a 2-year period, they get a very good cross-functional exposure. Also, they can move within projects. Now, for instance, we have people who worked first on the John Keel's project, serving the John Keel's company. Then they move to a UK project, serving a UK company on a completely different platform. So you can move within, and also we have training happening all the time where they can volunteer and they can nominate themselves. So BPO companies are like universities, as Shanaka said. So you can keep learning. Any of you, the panelists, like to?
Yeah, if Shanaka, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me, Praveen?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. So, Ruchira, your question in terms of whether the employees who are joining the BPM industry are stagnated, the answer is no. I think 2 ways I can tell you about that. The experience, exposure they are going to get it's very vast. They are not at all stagnated at BPM industry. From the career point of view, if you join the BPM industry, I can tell you that by the 5th year, you become a managerial level. Joining as an associate, and by 5th year, you become a manager. Compared to any other industry, it's the most fast career growth industry that you can see there. So it's not stagnated. It's not a career downgrade, or you can't able to achieve. It's a fast growing industry.
Let me just add on to both Jehan and Shanaka, which I totally echo the same. But you have to, the other fact I want to bring in is, we being in the industry, we understand this stagnating anybody in the industry is not going to do us any good, because we are investing time on them to learn, and we will benefit only if they are variably giving us deliverables. If they are going to stagnate in one line of work and we are going to get the best out of them, we are not going to benefit. As long as the individual is multitasking, is handling different type of accounts, different areas, then only the leadership qualities and the deliverable is varied within that individual, then only we can benefit. So definitely, I think all of us have understood, at Ernst & Young itself, we never stagnate anybody, because if by the time we invest and they learn, and by the time they get to the stagnation point, that means they are bored, and the investment we have made on them is lost if they turn around and move out. So we have understood that, Jehan has understood that. So we ensure that they will not come to that point. They will have varied. Definitely the millennials are ones who are not going to be stagnated or not going to take the second. They will indicate, and they will next will be the move. So we have understood that, and we have, I think, very well catered to not that to happen.
Thanks for.
Just one thing I can add to this, Ruchira, it's a two-way street, okay? If somebody is interested in learning, this is one of the best industries because we have the syllabuses and the material which is ready-made. My recommendation on top of everything that was pretty much very good responses from the panelists is you as a person, if you're an individual, should have an ambition and a target to learn something at least new every year. And you should be smart enough to add at least 2 lines to your CV to say, I have learned something new this year. And if you share that ambition with your HR or your BPM industry immediate line manager, there are tons of opportunities to stretch your career and move about. And say you are planning to stay for 1 year, you can convert that into a 5-year or a 10-year and end up in senior management. That's what I can add on. So there's no fear of stagnation.
Okay, thank you, Arjuna. Professor?
Yeah. Okay, if you have any questions, otherwise you can give the vote of thanks.
Okay. So before I begin my vote of thanks, thank you, Professor. Thank you very much, Jahan and panelists. So before I begin my vote of thanks, let me congratulate the panelists, including the keynote speaker, our 2 panelists, and Jahan, for an excellent deliberation on the topic of BPO industry in Sri Lanka. I'm sure the audience today, many of them are CMA members as well as students, have benefited immensely from the discussion today. So as a council member, let me express my gratitude to the panelists who have done a wonderful job today. So with that note, let me now appreciate the presence of Mr. Shanaka Fernando, Shanaka, Senior General Manager of WNS. Thank you, Shanaka, for your thoughts and for explaining the current position of the BPO industry in Sri Lanka. Also, you have deliberated the opportunities that will be available for finance professionals. You, along with other panelists together, you have dispelled the myth that they can get stagnated in the industry. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Thank you, Arjuna, Head of Shared Service LSCG, for being with us today and again explaining the many opportunities that are available for finance professionals. And also, it was very encouraging to note that you have come back to Sri Lanka and have started LSCG to give opportunities for Sri Lankans, and you are very happy about the decision of coming back to Sri Lanka. Thank you, Arjuna, for being with us today and sharing your thoughts. Thank you, Praveen Rubero, Principal, Partner of E&Y. Thank you for being with us, and also like Shanaka and Arjuna for explaining the opportunities that are available for finance professionals, and also you too dispel the myth that they can get stagnated in the industry. I'm sure as a whole, as a team, you have done a wonderful job. I must congratulate you along with the moderator, Mr. Jahan Perimpanayagam, who's the CEO of Informate. I remember Jahan, I mean, he was there at a previous webinar as well, just last week. There again, he was mentioning the importance of the BPO sector, and he was mentioning that Sri Lanka can be promoted as a hub for BPO operations. So thank you, Jahan, for moderating this session brilliantly. You have asked very interesting questions, and you have got the responses from our panelists for the benefit of CMA members and students. Thank you very much, Professor, for organizing this webinar. You always take the leadership and give us direction to organize this kind of webinars. I'm sure most of you know, for the last 2 years, CMA has been conducting this kind of webinars, and Professor Vattabala is giving us the leadership, and we as council members and others as CMA staff and members of CPD committee, they all get together and support Professor Vattabala's initiative. So thank you very much, sir. So finally, I would like to thank the fellow council members of CMA Sri Lanka, Vice President Mr. Hendrika Bandara, CMA staff, and also members of the CPD committee who have assisted in numerous ways, many ways, to get this webinar organized today for the benefit of members and students. So finally, let me thank the audience today who have joined with us. I am sure you have enjoyed the session. The webinar was very informative and useful. So until we meet from another webinar of this nature on a future date, so let me wish you good night and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruchira. I think let me also thank all our speakers and panelists. And maybe what I feel is that we should not stop at this, but we should take it forward and also maybe get some of the students also who are interested. I think the first thing is that we may have to work out on our training program, what has to be done. Plus maybe later, Jehan, we can have a discussion and then see what are the areas that we should look into and then take it forward. So let me thank you once again for the great initiative. I'm sure that we could have a few more depending on the interest and the new areas that would come in, because this has to be popularized because a lot of them are not quite conversant with the BPM, BPO industry. And I think it is a good occasion where the accountancy profession and the BPM, BPO industry can get together. And because we are also spread out, like what you said, that you are in different rural areas, we also have educational institutions spread throughout the country. So that also gives an opportunity to see how we can also help those institutions in those outside areas, in the rural areas. So that I think is a big opportunity because they are also looking for training opportunities. So if we can get them for training, then they can also follow classes in that area. At the moment, of course, we are doing most of it online, but I'm sure that very soon we can have a hybrid version which will help. So once again, let me thank you, Jehan. And if you like to say a few words before closing, you're welcome.
So thank you very much, Professor, and thank you, Ruchira, and the fantastic panel, and all of you for being a very, very involved audience. As Professor said, we don't want to stop here. There are several thousand more of your CMA colleagues that we want to speak to. We want to get the good news of our industry to you, how we can work together to build this industry, and that's definitely going to play a big role in the revival of our economy. Something that we need to work hand in hand. I'm very excited to work in partnership with CMA. And so, as Professor said, this is going to be the first of many such engagements. And do please keep in touch with us. Check out some of the BPO companies on the websites. Look out for jobs. Look out for openings. Send in your CVs, as Shanaka said. It's the start of a great partnership.
Thank you, Jehan. So we've now come to the end. So let me once again thank everyone, all our participants, our council members, Ruchira, and everyone, and wish you all the very best. And I'm sure that this is a very, very good start that we have made, and it will help us take maybe to grow the BPO, BPM industry, and also maybe closely work with the accounting profession, because we feel that there are a lot of opportunities available. And of course, finally, Sri Lanka needs a lot of valuable foreign exchange at the moment. That's a major area. So they can all contribute to this in a big way. And of course, you all know how India made it and how India's economy really took a jump start, how the cities developed. So all those are there. So I'm sure the similar thing that can be done, of course, with the private sector, I will tell you. And if the government is prepared to give any support, we can take it. But let's go ahead and do this and make it a great success. Thank you and all the very best.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Professor.
Jinan. Thank you all.
Thank you.